And with that, we welcome you into Week 6 of the NFL action. It was a busy week in the standings as Cam fell out of first place with the loss this week, and Ryan, his roommate and counterpart, moved up the standings to 4-1. Some narrow victories for both Dennis and Dave last week, and then we see the finalists from last year, Bill and Drew, getting their second consecutive victory, moving on to 2-3. As for the predictions, last week, big bounce back week for me, 4-1, bringing me to 10-15 on the young season. So this is the opportunity to get those separation wins as we see even more movement in the standings moving forward. So let's kick off the action here. The first matchup we have this week is Dennis versus Ryan. Really a premier matchup this week as Dennis hopes to make his move to the top of the standings. Ryan is looking to hold on to that top spot. Dennis this week has to deal with a Drew Brees bye situation. He did pick up Eli Manning. It's a really savvy pickup. He's quietly had a really nice season, and he has a real nice matchup against Philadelphia this week on Sunday Night Football. Really like what Dennis has done at the wide receiver position. He's got the 3Ds, Demaryius, Dez, and Deshaun, but then he also has Mike Wallace in the flex. So Dennis is pretty stacked at wide receiver. On the flip side, as Dennis said in the league message board last week, his running back situation is in dire need of some upgrades. He has now Bobby Rainey going for him. He's not even a starting running back this week for Tampa Bay. Lamar Miller against Green Bay. Yeesh. So that could be a big problem for Dennis at the running back position. After weeks of me getting on Ryan's decision to start Vincent Jackson, he has responded with 2 nice games with a 12 and over 20 game the last 2 weeks. He does have a bit of an injury right now he's dealing with, a rib injury, but he should be okay and should be able to get that start for Tampa Bay. AJ Green is out of the lineup for Ryan, so he did the best thing he could possibly do and pick up his replacement. So he has Mohamed Sanu in the lineup right now. He should be receiving the catches that Green would normally get. And he did have a touchdown last week, so that should be a good pickup for Ryan. I do like Ryan's running backs. He's got Lynch and Ben Tate. Ben Tate saw a lot of carries last week, and Lynch did find the end zone again, so I like both of those guys this week. When you look at Ryan's roster, you really don't see a ton of holes right now, so that leads me to believe that he's going to get the victory and Dennis will fall, so I know Dennis will be thrilled that I am picking against him this week.
Accept my trade, Dennis. I'll help you out.
Wow, we have a co-anchor at this one. That was not part of the cue card, but okay. So next matchup we have is Sean, the aforementioned Sean, and Dave. Towards the bottom of the standings for both gentlemen, Sean's lost 4 in a row. Dave had a narrow victory, as we mentioned earlier, last week, so they're hoping to get back on the winning ways. Sean, like his team, and Cordarrelle Patterson, pretty much the same. Cordarrelle Patterson had a monster week 1, but has really struggled since. He's got Bridgewater back at the helm this week, so hopefully they'll start to build up a rapport because Sean's really going to need it out of that wide receiver 1 position.
Hit my stride.
Sean had a tough break last week. Graham got left the game with an injury. Now he's on a bye. He did make a nice pickup. Dwayne Allen was picked up off waivers this week. He's emerged as a really nice red zone target for Luck. So even though it's Thursday Night Football, I like for him to continue his touchdown-getting ways. Sean's persistence also has paid off at the running back position. He drafted Andre Williams this year. He got Justin Forsett off waivers. Those are both starting running backs in the NFL, and we like starting running backs in the NFL. So I like both of them to be nice plug-and-play starts for Sean this week. Dave, on the flip side, was rewarded with a nice start from Brady last week against Cincinnati. Here's hoping that it'll be 2 in a row for him. He's traditionally done well against Buffalo in the past, but the game is on the road and the team has struggled there. So that could be something to watch for Dave's success this week. This is really a chance for Gio Bernard to step up now that Green is out of the lineup. I look for him to be very active out of the backfield against Carolina this week. With Montee Ball going down, which really hurt Sean, but as we mentioned, he's got the pickups there. Dave did pick up Hillman, who is in line to be the replacement. It remains to be seen how Denver's going to handle the backfield moving forward, and I really don't like the matchup that he has against the Jets this week. They have a tough run defense.
Suck it.
So Sean, if he can get any production out of Cordarrelle Patterson, he's got a real nice shot. And although I'm not 100% confident in him, I'm going to roll the dice anyway. I'm going to go with Sean to take this one over Dave.
Cool.
Thank you, Sean. Adam and Steve is the next matchup that we're looking at here. Adam's hoping to get back to the winning ways. He's lost 2 in a row. Steve continues to be around 500, win 1, lose 1. So he's trying to get back to 500 this week with a win. really the question that everybody has no answers for at this point is what happened to LaShawn McCoy. He has been virtually invisible this week, or this season rather, in the Philly offense. They really need to get him back involved in their passing games, particularly for them to have any shot at being a successful offense. So I look for him eventually to get back to maybe not what he was in the past, but certainly to a quality NFL starting running back. Steven Jackson, speaking of starting running backs, was picked off waivers by Adam this week. He's had a few good games this year, but it's really just because he's gotten into the end zone, so he is an absolute touchdown-dependent player. If he can get into the end zone, he'll be a good start in the flex position. Speaking of touchdowns, Percy Harvin last week had the misfortune of having 3 touchdowns called back due to penalty. It's probably the first time that's ever happened. I'm sure he'll find the end zone again soon, and here's hoping that Seattle can not get a penalty on a play he actually does find the end zone. So looking at Steve's roster, he's got 2 players that were really stellar last year, Jordan Cameron, Doug Martin. They have not been stellar this year. They both had injuries they've had to deal with. Steve is really going to need some contributions out of these guys. These are premier players from last year in fantasy football. He's going to need some contributions out of these guys if he wants to have a shot at scoring some points. Since Wes has returned from his suspension, he's put up back-to-back 12-point games. I only think that his role will expand now that he is back into the lineup, even with Emmanuel Sanders involved. At some point, McCoy is going to break out for Adam. I truly believe that. But I really think Steve's going to get good contributions out of his wide receivers. I like Fred Jackson this week. He's traditionally done well against the Patriots, particularly catching passes out of the backfield. So I'm going to take Steve, a little bit of a roll of the dice, but I'm going to go with Steve to take down Adam and get to 500. Next matchup we're looking at here is Cam versus Bud. As we mentioned off the top, Cam's hoping to rebound after his first loss of the season, while Bud was unfortunately unable to take down Dennis, where it looked like he had a shot, but he wasn't able to close the deal. So he looks to get back into the win column this week as well.
D-Jax.
I was very critical of Russell Wilson's starting position for Cam last week, and it paid off. Good thing you didn't listen to me, Cam, because he had a really strong game. If he continues to run the ball like he did on Monday Night Football, he's in line for another big week for Cam's roster. Looking at Cam's roster, though, you do see that Reggie Bush is in the lineup right now. Major question mark. He did not practice this week, and he's seeing that Joique Bell and Theo Riddick are ahead of him right now. They both practice after coming back from injury, so I'm not confident in Bush. I think Spiller is going to end up being inserted into Cam's roster this week. Kendall Wright for Cam had a monster week last week. Cam really needs more of that moving forward. He needs that consistency. Kendall's not been the most consistent fantasy player, but definitely a good start last week, and he's got Jacksonville this week, so that's definitely a green light for that. Bud seems to always find a way to find some Thursday night football players, and this week's no different. He's got Ahmad Bradshaw in there. He's hit double digits every single week this year, and I look for him to continue that trend. I look for him to be active for Indianapolis. Frank Gore traditionally has done very well against St. Louis, and he's got the Monday night game this week. He's had 2 good games in a row. I'm looking for him to make it 3 good games in a row. Jason Witten has been one guy that's been a little quiet for Bud in his high-scoring ways. He's got Seattle this week, so I don't think this is the week that he's going to have the breakout game, but Bud's going to need Jason Witten to produce, particularly to find the end zone for him to continue scoring high points. Really, if you look at Bud's roster, though, his wide receivers are completely stacked. He's got Aaron Rodgers this week. I like Gore, as I mentioned, on Monday Night Football. So I like Bud to give Cam his second loss in a row and get back into the win column for this week. And that takes us to our final matchup, the matchup of the week. It is a rematch from last year's championship game in which Bill knocked off Drew to take the League of Legends championship. Both gentlemen have won their last 2 games and have climbed out of the cellar of the standings and hope to make it 3 in a row. For Drew's team, it's really been a disappointing year for Keenan Allen. Rivers has done a great job throwing the ball this year, but he's really been spreading the ball around to a lot of different players, including Eddie Royal and some of the guys in the backfield that they've had. This could be a good game for Allen to find his stride. He's got a nice matchup against Oakland, so it's an opportunity for him to break out a little bit. Andre Ellington found the end zone for the first time last year on an 80-yard touchdown throw. This could be a sign of things for Ellington. He could be in line for another good week. And speaking of the Arizona offense, the last piece I want to mention about Drew's team, he's got Michael Floyd in there right now at the flex position. It's really been dependent on who's starting at quarterback in terms of how Michael Floyd has been. So hopefully they got some stability with Carson Palmer potentially returning. This could be a good game for Michael Floyd out of the flex position. As I predicted last week for Bill, Gronkowski was back in full form last week. He caught a touchdown pass. He looked very effective, over 100 yards. This could be a good sign of things to come. This could be the old Gronk that we're used to seeing. So this is a good sign for Bill. When you look at Bill's team, though, the one thing that stands out the most is the fact that he has 4 guys on Thursday Night Football. That is just asinine. As we talked about a little bit last week in the predictions, it's really difficult to gauge how these Thursday night guys are going to do in their matchup. It's tough to really gauge how their projections are going to stack up. When you look at it, he's got 2 guys on the Colts and 2 guys on the Texans. I'm not confident in Foster on a short week. He's had some injuries. I don't think he's going to get the projected total that they're saying. However, I do like the fact that Andrew Luck and Reggie Wayne have the opportunity to go against that Houston defense. I think they're in line for a pretty good game. So I think they'll get closer to their projection totals, whereas the Texans, I'm not quite sure that they're going to be able to make it. So really, beyond the Thursday night performances for Bill, it's going to be contingent on the fact of Alfred Morris having a good game. He's projected very low. He's got a tough matchup. He had a tough one last week at the Seahawks, and it's really not much easier against Arizona. Bill's really going to need something out of Alfred Morris in order to have a shot at winning this one. So for the final verdict on how the prediction is going to go, I'm going to turn it to my co-anchor, Sean, who will give his analysis on the game.
All right, here we go, gentlemen. Well, definitely agree with Drew. Seeing that Bill has 4 guys going to Thursday night games, can't feel too confident about that. Most of these Thursday night games have been very, very one-sided. So I like the Indianapolis players in this matchup, but I have a very bad feeling about Houston. Houston's defense has some good studs, but on offense, I do not feel comfortable about Foster or Hopkins. Plus, also, it is hell to live with Drew after a loss for him. So I am going to have to go with my roomie Drew. Very like the matchups very much. The one X factor I would say for Bill, though, Drew mentioned Alfred Morris. I'm going to have to go with Gronkowski. After his kind of resurgence last week, he looks really good. Him playing back home in Buffalo. If Gronkowski has another 2, maybe 3 touchdown game, kind of get himself back on track, that could be the turning point for a win for Bill. But I have a lot of confidence in Drew this week.
Well, thank you, Sean. That was very nice of you to say. So I hope you like that little wrinkle involved in the predictions this week. And I'm going to let this SportsCenter music ride out. Best of luck this week in the action. And we'll see you next week.
Play that sax, baby. Play that sax. Here we go, Bees. Bees tonight.
Let's go, Bees.
Sweaty balls.